Pakistan today finds itself once again exposed to a crisis that neither created nor can control. The current conflict in the Middle East, the threat to regional stability and concerns over disruption in vital shipping routes have once again reminded us of a harsh reality. Pakistan remains dangerously dependent on imported energy. And whenever the world shakes, it is the Pakistani citizen who is left to absorb the aftershocks. This is not a new problem. And this is certainly not the failure of one government alone. This is the result of decades of policy making, where successive governments, regardless of political party or ideology, have failed to build a serious roadmap towards energy independence. For years, Pakistan is known that global energy markets are volatile. We have lived through oil shocks, supply disruptions, geopolitical conflicts, and repeated warnings from economists and energy experts. And yet, our response has largely remained reactive rather than strategic. Instead of building long-term resilience, governments have focused on short-term fixes. Instead of aggressively investing in domestic energy diversification, modernizing infrastructure, expanding renewables, upgrading transmission systems, and reducing dependence on imported fuel, we have often relied on stopgap measures designed to survive the next few months or the next political cycle. The consequences of this short-sightedness are now painfully clear. When tensions rise in the Gulf, when oil prices spike, when shipping routes face disruption, Pakistan immediately feels the pressure. Fuel prices rise, electricity generation costs increase, transport becomes more expensive, food prices climb because logistics costs increase, inflation deepens. And who carries the burden? Not the policymakers who failed to prepare, not the decision makers who had years to act. It is carried by the ordinary Pakistani, the salaried worker, the daily wage laborer, the shopkeeper, the family already struggling to make ends meet. Every global crisis becomes a domestic economic punishment for citizens who had no role in creating that vulnerability. What makes this even more frustrating is that Pakistan is not without options. We have enormous untapped solar potential. We have wind corridors that could have been scaled far more aggressively. We have hydroelectric opportunities. We have the capacity to create a diversified energy mix that reduces dependence on imported oil and gas. But these opportunities have too often been slowed by bureaucratic inefficiency, inconsistent policy, regulatory uncertainty, political instability, and the absence of continuity from one government to the next. Every administration tends to announce ambitious plans. Few sustain them long enough to transform the system. And energy independence cannot be achieved through announcements. It requires continuity. It requires difficult structural reforms. It requires governments willing to think beyond electoral cycles. The real question today is not simply whether Pakistan can manage this immediate crisis. The real question is, why are we still vulnerable? Why, after decades of repeated global shocks, are we still operating in emergency mode every time international markets fluctuate? Why has energy security remained a talking point rather than a national mission? And most importantly, how much longer will citizens continue paying the price for policy failures that span generations of leadership? This moment should serve as a wake-up call. Not for temporary subsidies, not for short-lived relief packages, not for press conferences designed to calm headlines, but for a serious, bipartisan national commitment to energy independence. Because until Pakistan breaks this cycle of dependence, every international conflict, every regional disruption, every spike in oil prices will continue to land where it always does, on the shoulders of the Pakistani people.